Picture two seeds. Same soil, same sunlight, same amount of water, same garden. The first seed gets planted on the day someone turns 25 years old. It is a small seed, nothing impressive. Just $100 dropped into an index fund on a Tuesday afternoon with barely a second thought. It sits in the ground quietly. Nobody watches it every day. Nobody moves it around. It just sits there, doing what seeds do when you leave them alone in good soil. The second seed gets planted 10 years later. Same seed, same soil, same sunlight, same index fund. Just planted on a different Tuesday, the Tuesday when that person finally felt ready, finally felt like they had enough to start, finally felt like the timing was right. 40 years pass. The first seed, the one planted at 25, has grown into something that barely looks like what it started as. It has become a tree, not a sapling, not a shrub, a full, wide, deeply rooted tree with branches that reach further than the person who planted it ever imagined when they dropped that first $100 into the ground and went back to their regular life. The second seed, the one planted at 35, has also grown. It is not nothing. It is a real living thing with genuine value, but it is smaller. Meaningfully, visibly, measurably smaller than the first tree. Not because it was a worse seed, not because it received less care, but because it had less time. And time, in the garden where compound interest grows, is the only resource that cannot be replaced once it is gone. This is the story of compound interest. And like most things that sound like a simple concept, earn returns on your returns, growth building on top of growth, the full reality of it is far more powerful, far more beautiful, and far more dangerous than most people realize until they have already made the decisions that determined which side of it they end up on. Because compound interest does not play favorites. It does not care whose money it is working with or whose debt it is compounding against. It is a mathematical force that operates with complete indifference to the person on the receiving end of it. And the only thing that determines whether it is the most powerful tool in your financial life or the most relentless weight in your financial life is one question. Is it working for you, or are you working for it? Today, we are going to look at both sides of that question, the side that builds wealth quietly and reliably over decades, and the side that drains it just as quietly, just as reliably, just as relentlessly. For anyone carrying debt at a high interest rate, while waiting for the right time to start building. Both sides follow the same mathematical law. Understanding that law clearly is one of the most important things anyone can do for their financial future. Let us start at the beginning. What compound interest actually is. Before we go into the numbers, before we look at what it builds and what it costs, we need to make sure we understand what compound interest actually is. Not the textbook definition, the real one. The one that makes the numbers make sense. Simple interest is straightforward. You put $1,000 in an account that earns 10% per year. After 1 year, you have $1,100. The $100 is your interest. After 2 years, you have $1,200. The interest is always calculated on the original $1,000, the principal. It grows in a straight line. Compound interest is different in one specific and enormously consequential way. The interest you earn in year 1 does not stay separate from the principal. It joins the principal. It becomes part of the balance that earns interest in year 2. So in year 1, your $1,000 earns $100 in interest at 10%. You now have $1,100. In year 2, the 10% return is calculated on $1,100, not the original $1,000. So you earn $110 in year 2. You now have $1,210. In year 3, the return is calculated on $1,210. You earn $121. You now have $1,331. The interest is earning interest. The growth is growing. And over long periods of time, this creates a curve that looks almost flat at the beginning and then bends sharply upward in a way that produces results that feel genuinely impossible until you see the math laid out clearly. $1,000 at 10% compounded annually for 10 years becomes $2,594. No additional contributions, just time and compounding. For 20 years, it becomes $6,727. For 30 years, it becomes $17,449. For 40 years, it becomes $45,259. The same $1,000. The same 10% rate, just more time. Notice what happens in that last decade, years 30 to 40. The account grows by nearly $28,000 in a single decade, more than the entire accumulated value after 30 years, without a single additional dollar being added. That is compound interest doing what compound interest does when it has been given enough time to build up sufficient mass. This is why Warren Buffett, who started investing at age 10 and never stopped, accumulated approximately 97% of his net worth after his 60th birthday. Not because his investment returns were dramatically different in his 60s than they were in his 30s, but because by his 60s, the compounding had been running for 50 years and had accumulated enough mass to generate extraordinary absolute returns even at ordinary percentage rates. The lesson is not that everyone needs to start at age 10. The lesson is that every year of compounding that is added at the beginning is worth more than a year added later, because it has more time to multiply, which means the decision of when to start is one of the most financially consequential decisions most people will ever make. The side that builds, compound interest, working for you. Let us put real numbers on the building side, numbers that are specific enough to make this feel real rather than theoretical. Meet Amara. She is 24 years old, just started her first real job, and earns $48,000 a year. After reading about investing for the first time, she decides to open a Roth IRA and contribute $200 per month, $2,400 per year. Not the maximum contribution, not a heroic sacrifice, $200 per month. About the cost of a car payment she does not have. She invests in a total market index fund and leaves it alone. She does not try to time the market. She does not move the money around when the news is scary. She just contributes consistently, reinvests every dividend automatically, and lets the compounding run. Here is what happens to Amara's money over time at a 10% average annual return, the historical average of the U.S. stock market over the last century. At age 30, 6 years in, Amara's account has approximately $38,000. She has personally contributed $14,400. The remaining $23,600 was generated by the compounding of returns on returns. She has already made more from compound interest than from her own contributions. At age 40, 16 years in, the account has approximately $110,000. She has contributed $38,400 herself. The compounding has generated the additional $71,600. At age 50, 26 years in, the account sits at approximately $290,000. Her contributions, $62,400. The compounding, $227,600. The machine is now generating more in a single year than Amara is contributing in 2 years. At age 64, 40 years after she started, Amara's Roth IRA has approximately $1,100,000. Her total personal contributions over 40 years, $96,000. The compound growth generated over $1 million. $1 million generated from $96,000 of her own money simply by starting early, contributing consistently, and leaving the system alone long enough for the mathematics to do what the mathematics does. Amara did not get rich by being brilliant. She did not time the market. She did not pick the right stock. She applied one principle: start early, contribute consistently, leave it alone, and let 40 years of compounding do the work that no amount of clever investing can replicate. Now let us look at what happens when the start is delayed. The cost of waiting, the most expensive decision most people make. Marcus is also 24 when Amara starts investing, but Marcus is not ready yet. He wants to pay down some debt first. He wants to build up a little more cushion. He wants to wait until he is earning a bit more before he starts putting money away for the future. At 30, Marcus starts. The same $200 per month, the same index fund, the same 10% average annual return. He is only 6 years behind Amara. 6 years does not sound like much. It is roughly the length of 2 presidential terms. It is not a lifetime. It is 6 years. Here is what those 6 years cost Marcus in compound interest. At age 64, Marcus's account, started at 30 with the same contributions, has approximately $628,000. Amara's account, $1,100,000. The difference, $472,000. $472,000, lost to a 6-year delay at the beginning of a 40-year investment journey. Not to bad choices, not to poor returns, not to any mistake most people would recognize as a mistake. Just to waiting, to not being quite ready, to planning to start soon but not starting today. Those 6 years of contributions that Amara made between 24 and 30, $14,400 of her own money, compounded for 40 years to generate $472,000 more than Marcus accumulated with an identical contribution amount and identical returns. That is the real cost of delay, not the contributions you miss. The decades of compounding those contributions would have generated. This is why every financial educator, every retirement researcher, and every person who has studied compound interest over a long career reaches the same conclusion. The single most impactful financial decision for most people is not which stock to pick or which fund to choose. It is when to start. And the answer is always some version of the same thing. Earlier than you think you are ready, with less money than you think you need, in something simpler than you think it has to be. Start the clock. Everything else is secondary. The side that breaks. Compound interest working against you. Now we need to talk about the other side, the side that operates by exactly the same mathematical law but runs in exactly the opposite direction, the side that most people are already living with and do not fully understand. Consumer debt at high interest rates is compound interest working against you, and it is doing so with the same relentless efficiency, the same exponential momentum, and the same indifference to your intentions that compound investment returns bring to the building side. The average credit card in America charges somewhere around 23% annual interest. Let us look at what that means in real terms for a balance most people would consider manageable. Suppose you carry a credit card balance of $4,000 at 23% interest and you make only the minimum payment, typically calculated as 1 to 2% of the balance, or a small fixed dollar amount, whichever is greater. On a $4,000 balance, the minimum payment might be somewhere around $80 to $90 per month. At that payment level, here is what happens. In month 1, the interest charge on the $4,000 balance is approximately $77. Your $85 minimum payment reduces the principal by approximately $8. $8 on an $85 payment. The remaining balance after month 1, $3,992. At this rate, minimum payments only, no new charges. It will take approximately 22 years to pay off that $4,000 balance, and the total interest paid over those 22 years will be approximately $4,800. You will pay more in interest than the original balance. for a debt of $4,000 that may have been accumulated across dozens of ordinary transactions: groceries, gas, a car repair, a few dinners out. The compound interest on that balance, given enough time to run, more than doubles the original cost of everything purchased on that card. And this is at minimum payments on a single card. The average American household carrying credit card debt holds a balance of $6,200. Many carry balances across multiple cards simultaneously. The compound interest running against each balance every month is relentless, not because the credit card companies are doing anything other than what they disclosed in the terms you agreed to, but because compound interest at 23% given enough time is genuinely one of the most powerful financial forces most people will ever encounter. On the wrong side of it. The two clocks running simultaneously. Here is the insight that connects both sides of this conversation into one clear picture. For most people, right now, today, two compound interest clocks are running simultaneously, and they are running in opposite directions. The investment clock, if it is running, is compounding returns on the money that has been invested, quietly, automatically, in the background, generating growth on top of growth every single day. The debt clock, if debt is being carried, is compounding interest charges on every unpaid balance. Equally quietly, equally automatically, in the same background, eroding wealth with the same mathematical force that the investment clock is building it. The net effect of your financial life is the difference between these two clocks, and there are 4 possible relationships between them. The first possibility, and the best one, is that the investment clock is running and no high-interest debt clock is running against it. The compounding is entirely in your favor. Every year, the gap between what you have today and what you will have in 30 years grows in your direction. The second possibility is that neither clock is running, no investments, no significant high-interest debt, money sitting in a checking or savings account earning almost nothing. This is the position of arrested financial motion. Not losing dramatically, but not building either. Time passing without compound interest doing anything productive with it. The third possibility is that the debt clock is running, but the investment clock is not. High-interest debt compounding against you every month while no investments are growing in the background. This is the most financially damaging position, because the mathematical force that could be building your future is instead being used to build someone else's, specifically the institutions collecting interest on your debt. The fourth possibility is that both clocks are running simultaneously, investments growing, high-interest debt also compounding. This is the situation many people are in, and it requires a specific strategic response. Because carrying high-interest consumer debt while also investing creates a mathematical contradiction. The debt is compounding against you at 23%. The investment is growing for you at approximately 10%. The compound interest working against you is moving faster than the compound interest working for you. You are running in 2 directions at once, and one direction has stronger legs. The general financial guidance in this situation, and it is guidance supported by the mathematics, not just by financial opinion, is to eliminate high-interest consumer debt before or alongside investment contributions, rather than investing aggressively while carrying balances at rates that exceed the expected investment return. The exception is always capturing an employer 401k match first, because a match is an immediate 100% return on the contributed dollar that no debt interest rate can exceed. But beyond the match, every dollar used to pay down a 23% debt is generating a 23% guaranteed return, which is higher than almost any investment can reliably promise. The Rule of 72, a tool worth knowing. Before we close, there is one simple mathematical tool that makes compound interest instantly understandable in any situation. It is called the Rule of 72, and it takes about 5 seconds to use. Divide 72 by the interest rate, any interest rate, and the result tells you approximately how many years it takes for money to double at that rate through compounding. At 10%, the historical stock market average, money doubles every 7.2 years. In 40 years, a dollar doubles approximately 5.5 times. $1,000 becomes $32,000 without a single additional contribution. At 7%, a more conservative long-term investment estimate, money doubles every 10.3 years. Slower, but still powerful over decades. Now apply the same rule to debt. At 23%, the current average credit card rate, debt doubles every 3.1 years. A $4,000 balance that is not being actively paid down doubles to $8,000 in just over 3 years, then to $16,000 in another 3 years, then to $32,000. The same mathematical engine that builds wealth on the investment side is building the creditor's wealth on the debt side. The rule of 72 is not just a curiosity. It is a way of seeing compound interest clearly, in both directions, in a single calculation that requires no spreadsheet and no financial expertise. At whatever rate your money is growing, divide 72 by that rate. That is how long before it doubles. At whatever rate your debt is compounding, divide 72 by that rate. That is how long before it doubles. Knowing those two numbers and doing something about the gap between them is the foundation of a financial life that compound interest is building rather than consuming. Which side are you on, and what to do about it? Amara's tree and Marcus's tree are both real. Both are the result of the same mathematical force applied over the same 40 years. The difference between them, $472,000, came from one decision made at one specific point in time. The decision to start when the moment was slightly uncomfortable rather than waiting for the moment to feel exactly right. The high-interest debt balance compounding at 23% is also real. The 22 years and $4,800 in interest on a $4,000 balance at minimum payments is not a hypothetical. It is a mathematical certainty for anyone in that position who does not change the equation. Both of these realities, the building and the breaking, are available to the same person, often running simultaneously, always responding to decisions. The question is not whether compound interest is real. It is unmistakably real. The question is not whether it is powerful. It is the most powerful force in personal finance. The question is the same one it has always been. Which side of it are you on? And what are you going to do about that starting with the next decision you make? Because the clock is running. It has been running. It will keep running whether you are paying attention to it or not. The only question is which direction it is working in. Start the investment clock if it is not running. Eliminate the debt clock if it is running against you. And if you are already on the right side of it, protect it. Leave it alone. Let the years do what years and compound interest do together when they are given enough time and enough space to work. We will see you in the next one.